Hello, everyone. Welcome to Stories by Night, the storytelling channel where real-life dramas are illuminated under the mystical glow of the moon. Today, I'm taking you to a peaceful countryside in East Tennessee, where the misty Smoky Mountains stretch endlessly, golden cornfields shimmer under the afternoon sun, and winding red dirt roads lead to secrets no one could have imagined. This is my story, Emily Johnson, a regular 25-year-old girl living with my newlywed husband, Ryan Mitchell, and my father-in-law, Jack Mitchell, in a small house tucked at the foot of a hill. Our life seemed like a perfect picture until a shadow from the past stepped in, bringing with it dark schemes, fiery confrontations, and twists that'll send chills down your spine. So sit down, turn off the lights, and let me tell you this tale under the Tennessee moonlight. I'm Emily Johnson, 25. A girl with slightly curly brown hair and emerald green eyes that always sparkled with joy. At least until everything started spiraling out of control. I work at a small craft shop in Gatlinburg, about a 20-minute drive from home, through winding roads lined with pine forests. My job isn't glamorous, selling hand-knitted scarves, pottery jars, and a few souvenirs for tourists. But it's enough for me and Ryan to live comfortably in our two-story wooden house, which we recently built on a gentle hillside just outside Sevierville. My life overall was pretty good. Good in the way you can sit on the porch, sip sweet tea, and watch the sunset over the Smokies without a care in the world. Ryan Mitchell, my husband, also 25, is a handsome guy with jet black hair, a warm smile like autumn sunshine, and strong hands from years of working at the local lumber mill. He's a carpenter at a small workshop near Gatlinburg, turning rough logs into tables, chairs, or even intricate little statues that I proudly display around the house. We've been married for 6 months, and everything still feels as sweet as Tennessee's honey season. Evenings by the fireplace warming our wooden home, mornings with buttery biscuits and strong black coffee, or fishing trips together at nearby Douglas Lake. I love Ryan, and he loves me. At least, that's what I thought, until his past slithered in like a venomous snake hiding in the grass. Ryan's father, Jack Mitchell, 55, is a striking, rugged man with salt and pepper hair and deep brown eyes like the still lakes nestled in the Smoky Forests. He recently retired after 30 years with the Sevier County Forestry Service, where he patrolled the woods, checked for wildfires, and replanted pine forests ravaged by storms. Now he spends his days tending a small garden behind the house, growing vegetables and wildflowers that his late wife, Margaret, adored before she passed away from heart disease 15 years ago. He lives alone in an old wooden cabin right next to our house, a cozy little place built in the 70s, with faded red shingles, a creaky porch that groans in the wind, and wooden walls steeped in the faint scent of pine. It's where he and Margaret raised Ryan and his older sister, Sarah, who's now married and living in Knoxville with her 2 young kids. Even at his twilight age, Jack still cuts an impressive figure, tall, broad-shouldered, with a deep, soothing voice like the wind rustling through the trees at night. Ryan once told me that after his mom died, Jack vowed never to remarry. He poured his life into raising his 2 kids, working tirelessly so Sarah could finish college and Ryan could learn a solid trade. Only when they were settled did he allow himself to retire, though even then, he couldn't sit still. He joined the Sevierville Town Council, fixed up his cabin, and planted vibrant purple violets that Margaret once loved. The 3 of us, me, Ryan, and Jack, live close but respect each other's space. Ryan and I have a modern wooden house with white painted walls and big windows overlooking the cornfields and pine woods, while Jack's cabin sits just a few steps away, down a little red dirt path, shaded by ancient oak trees. We eat separately, live separately, but I'll occasionally bring Jack a plate of homemade cornbread or some smoked pork from our weekend backyard BBQs. He always beams with a warm smile, thanks me with a hearty pat on the shoulder, and I can feel the kindness and sincerity radiating from him, a trait Ryan inherited fully. I've translated the introduction and the initial character descriptions to give you a feel for the tone and style in American English. The story is rich with vivid imagery and Southern charm, which I've preserved while making it natural for an English-speaking audience. Let me know if you'd like me to continue translating the rest. Jack's change. The next morning, I woke up early and made coffee in the bright wooden kitchen, sunlight streaming through the large window. The rich aroma of roasted coffee blended with the scent of pine from the walls, creating a warm yet uneasy atmosphere. Looking out into the yard, I saw Jack watering the violets, a radiant smile on his face, a rare sight in the past few months, like sunlight piercing through the smoky mountain mist. He wore a light blue polo shirt and an old baseball cap, looking younger than his 55 years, like someone who had just rediscovered joy after years of quiet solitude. I decided to bring him a cup of coffee, wanting to probe into what was happening. My footsteps hesitated on the red dirt path. "Morning, Dad," I called, my voice as gentle as a flowing stream, carrying a steaming cup of coffee. "You seem happy today." Jack turned around, smiling warmly, his eyes glowing like an oil lamp in the night. "Morning, sweetheart." "Yeah, I feel better than usual. Thanks for the coffee." I sat on a wooden chair in the garden, the wind making the violet blossoms sway, and looked at him with curiosity. "You and Jessica? Is it real?" Jack froze, his hand holding the watering hose trembling slightly, his voice lowering like distant thunder. "Yesterday, I didn't expect you to see that. I don't even know how to explain." "I'm not judging you," I said quickly, my voice soft as reassurance. "If you like Jessica, I support you. But are you sure? She's quite young." Jack sighed and sat across from me, his gaze distant, as if looking back at the days he spent with Mom. "I don't know, Emily. Jessica's passionate. She makes me feel alive again, like when your mother and I used to sing on the porch. But I'm old. I'm afraid I can't keep up with her." "Then why not try?" I asked, my voice as gentle as the wind through the pines. "If you're happy, Ryan and I will be happy too." Jack smiled sadly, a flicker of worry in his eyes. "Ryan won't be happy. You know how stubborn he is. Just like his mother." I nodded, saying nothing, my heart heavy like an impending storm over the Smokies. Ryan wasn't just stubborn, he was hiding something from me, and I was determined to find out, like a hunter tracking footprints in the deep forest. Jessica moves in, and conflict erupts. A few days later, Jessica started showing up more often, like a strange wind stirring our peaceful countryside. One afternoon, while folding laundry in the living room, I heard the sound of tires rolling over the red dirt road. Peering through the window, I saw Jessica stepping out of a small pickup truck, carrying a suitcase, her chin lifted high like a queen claiming new territory. She wore a fiery red tank top and tight jeans, her high heels clicking against the ground with purpose. Jack greeted her with a sheepish smile, helping carry her belongings into the wooden cabin, looking like a man reliving his youth after years of loneliness. I stood there, clutching a pile of clothes, my heart tangled like a cornfield caught in the wind. Jessica had moved into the cabin, turning it into her domain. She brought clothes, cosmetics, and even a small Bluetooth speaker to blast lively pop music, a foreign sound amid the chirping birds and rustling leaves of the Smokies. At first, Jack was hesitant, but he soon got caught up in her enthusiasm, his eyes lighting up whenever she was around. When Ryan returned from work and saw the scene, he erupted like a volcano. Storming into the yard, his work boots caked with red dirt, he shouted like thunder, splitting the sky. "Jessica, what the hell are you doing here? I already said I don't approve of this." Jessica shrank behind Jack, her eyes wide with a feigned look of distress, her voice trembling. "Ryan, calm down." But Jack's face darkened, his voice deep and firm, like a ranger facing a wild beast. "Ryan, watch your mouth. Jessica is here with me. She's not bothering you. Why are you acting like this?" Ryan gritted his teeth, pointing a finger at Jessica, his eyes burning like embers in a furnace. "You don't get it, Dad. She's not a good person. Choose, me or her." Jack, furious, grabbed Jessica's hand and pulled her inside the cabin, his voice thundering. "You're being selfish, Ryan. I raised you, and this is how you treat me?" I rushed out, grabbing Ryan's arm, trying to calm him down. "Please, just breathe. Let's talk this through." But Ryan wasn't listening. He punched the wooden wall in the living room, the sound sharp and dry, leaving a small dent on the surface. "She's a damn manipulative woman. I won't let her ruin this family." His voice trembled with anger, like a lone wolf howling under the moon. I held him close, my mind swirling like a storm sweeping through the Smokies. Why do you hate her so much? Just tell me the truth. Ryan remained silent, his breath heavy like a wounded beast, then turned away, his voice lowering. You don't need to know. I just want her gone. I didn't press further, but my instincts screamed that the secret between Ryan and Jessica ran deeper than I had imagined, like a dark cave beneath the Smoky Mountains, untouched by light. The confrontation and the truth revealed. The next day, Ryan took the day off, staying home like a soldier guarding his territory. I saw him outside watering the plants, shirtless, his toned body and six-pack abs, something that would make any woman turn her head, like sunlight glinting through the pines. Jessica, stepping out of the cabin in a thin pink nightgown with no bra, exposed her seductive curves like a panther on the hunt. She stood on the porch, staring at Ryan, her gaze provocative like moonlight shimmering on a lake. You're still as attractive as ever, she purred, her voice sweet yet sharp like a dagger. Living with Jack is boring, old, slow, incapable. Ryan turned, his eyes cold as ice in a smoky mountain cave. He's about to be your husband. Watch your words. Jessica laughed, stepping closer in her high heels, the rhythmic tapping against the wooden porch like war drums. Oh, are you worried about me? That means you still have feelings for me, doesn't it? Ryan clenched his jaw, shoving her hand away, his eyes blazing like a wildfire. Quit your delusions. Go cook her something. My dad's coming home soon. Jessica shrugged, lounging on the wooden bench, eyeing Ryan like a starving wolf. You were strong, young, and full of passion back in Japan. I miss those days. Her voice lowered, almost like a seductive whisper. Cut the act, Ryan snapped, his voice like a clap of thunder. Why are you here, to mess with me? Jessica stepped closer, her breath warm against his face. I'm only here for the money. Jack gives me cash. I take it and leave. I'm not crazy enough to marry him. Ryan smirked, his gaze filled with disdain. You're dumber than I thought, Jessica. Really dumb. Jessica flinched, her blue eyes widening. What do you mean? Ryan pointed behind her, his voice icy. Turn around. Jessica spun, and there we were, Jack and I, standing silently. I had come from the house, Jack from the cornfield. Her face went pale as moonlight, her voice stammering. How long have you been here? Jack stepped forward, his voice heavy like the wind howling through the trees. Long enough. Say what you need to say, Jessica. Jessica dropped to her knees, grabbing Jack's hand, fake tears brimming in her eyes. Jack, Ryan and I were just joking. Don't misunderstand. But Jack pushed her away, his voice cold as mountain frost. Enough. I saw everything on the security camera the other day. You seducing Ryan, whispering disgusting things. You're young but already so calculating. Jessica turned to me, desperate. Emily, help me. I really care about Jack. I pulled my hand back, my voice shaking with anger. Enough, Jessica. I kept quiet out of respect for our past friendship, but you will never change. It's in your blood. Get out. Jessica stood, her face ashen, packing her things in silence. She left, leaving behind a cabin shrouded in eerie stillness, like a forest after a storm. Jack sat on the porch, holding his head, his eyes red. I was blind. Ryan patted his shoulder, his voice calm like a brook over stones. It's over now, Dad. Let's move on. The truth from Tokyo. After Jessica left, Ryan and I sat in the living room, the oil lamp hanging from the ceiling, casting dim shadows on the wooden floor. I poured him a glass of moonshine, a Tennessee specialty, before sitting across from him, my gaze as steady as the Smoky Mountains standing firm against the storm. Ryan, I began, my voice soft yet resolute, like a vow whispered under the moonlight. I need you to tell me the truth. What happened between you and Jessica? Why do you hate her so much? Ryan froze, his hand trembling slightly as he held the glass. He set it down, sighing deeply, his dark brown eyes filled with torment, like a man emerging from a nightmare. Emily, do you know why I was against Dad and Jessica being together? Why? I asked, my heart pounding like war drums in the midnight forest. Ryan lowered his head, his voice dropping into a whisper. Because Jessica used to be a prostitute in Japan, and she was my ex. I went numb, my grip loosening until my glass nearly slipped from my hand, landing on the wooden floor with a soft clink. What? Are you serious? Ryan nodded, his eyes filled with pain, like an old wound being ripped open. I was afraid you'd misunderstand, so I kept it from you. But now you know everything. She's back to get revenge on me. I sat still, my mind spiraling like a leaf caught in a Smoky Mountain whirlwind. Jessica, the beautiful, charming girl I once called a friend, had been Ryan's lover, and she was a prostitute? I felt suffocated, but I forced myself to stay calm, like someone standing firm in the eye of a storm. Tell me everything. Ryan took a deep breath, his voice trembling like the wind howling through the forest at night. 2 years ago, I met Jessica in Tokyo. Back then, I was a carpenter for a furniture company in Shibuya, and she worked at a nightclub nearby. She reached out to me through a mutual friend. We talked, and I got pulled in. I truly loved her. Emily, I begged her to quit, promised I'd get her a job at my company. She agreed, left the business, and moved in with me in a tiny apartment on the outskirts of Tokyo. I listened, my chest tightening as though crushed by an invisible force. And then? Ryan clenched his fists, his voice filled with fury like a wolf howling at the moon. But she never changed. She took the job, but she was still doing it behind my back. One day, a friend sent me a video, Jessica selling herself in the company restroom for 500 yen a session. A line of men was waiting their turn, like a pack of starving beasts. I'll never forget that sight. Disgusting Emily. I broke up with her immediately, left Japan, cut all ties. 2 months later, I met you at the class reunion. I covered my mouth, my vision blurring with shock, like rain suddenly pouring over the Smoky Mountains. Oh my God, why didn't you tell me sooner? I was scared you'd think I was an idiot for loving someone like her, Ryan admitted, his voice hoarse like a dried-up stream. But now she's back, and she wants revenge. She's seducing Dad just to become my stepmother, so she can torment me for the rest of my life. I stood up and hugged him, my tears falling onto his shoulder like raindrops in the forest. You idiot! Why didn't you trust me? I don't blame you. It's all in the past. Ryan held me tight, whispering in my ear like a vow beneath the moonlight. I'm sorry, Emily. I never wanted you to be caught up in this drama. I shook my head, wiping my tears with my sleeve, my voice as gentle as a passing breeze. It's okay, as long as you don't lose yourself. But you have to promise me. No more secrets, all right? Ryan nodded, gripping my hand tightly as if making a silent oath. I swear, I'll never let her fool me again. Jessica's return and the silent war. I thought everything was over when Jessica left, but I was dead wrong, like someone mistaking the calm before the storm for clear skies. A week later, she reappeared, bolder than ever, like a venomous snake slithering back into its den. I was at home, folding laundry in the living room when the doorbell rang, a loud, arrogant knock. When I opened the door, there she was, wearing a tight, blood-red dress, her lips painted a matching crimson, her gaze as sharp as a dagger in the dark. Hello, Emily, she purred, her voice as sweet and poisonous as honey laced with venom. I came to see Jack. I crossed my arms, my voice colder than the ice caves in the Smokies. You've got some nerve showing up here after everything you've done. Jessica smirked and stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, her high heels clicking against the wooden floor like a war drum. We're family now. Why so hostile? I'm about to be your stepmother. I let out a dry laugh, as bitter as an owl's cry in the midnight woods. Stepmother? Keep dreaming. Here's my advice. Get lost before things go too far. You're the one who'll regret it. Jessica tilted her head, her eyes flashing with challenge, like the moon daring the darkness to swallow it. How does it feel knowing I used to be Ryan's lover, and now I'll be living under the same roof as him? As his stepmother? Interesting, isn't it? I clenched my jaw, struggling to stay composed, like someone bracing against a raging storm. I only see someone degrading herself. Your past with Ryan is history. He's my husband now. And you? You're an expired product. When it's past the date, you throw it out. Jessica's face went pale, her eyes burning with fury, but she said nothing. She turned and stormed off, her heels clicking against the wooden steps like a declaration of war. I stood there, my hands trembling with anger, but I held it in, like a hunter keeping his arrow steady. From that day on, Jessica became a thorn in our side, like a weed sprouting among the cornfields. She moved into Jack's cabin, living like a queen in rural Tennessee, walking around our home in the scandalous outfits. Thin tank tops, tight short skirts, flaunting her curves as a silent provocation. Every morning when Ryan went outside to work out, jogging along the dirt path and lifting makeshift wooden weights, Jessica would step out in a sheer nightgown, teasing him with playful remarks, her voice like a siren's call. "You're still as fit as ever," she cooed, her tone dripping with seduction. "We were so happy back in Japan. You forgot so quickly?" Ryan gritted his teeth, raising his hand as if about to slap her, his eyes blazing like embers in a dying fire. But before he could, Jack stormed out of the cabin, his voice booming like thunder. "Ryan, cut it out!" Jessica shrank into Jack's arms, pretending to tremble like a helpless kitten. "Good thing you came, Jack, or Ryan would have hit me." Jack held her protectively, his voice firm like a ranger facing down a wild beast. "Don't be scared, baby. What were you two talking about?" Jessica's eyes shimmered with fake tears, her acting flawless under the dim morning light. "Ryan doesn't approve of us. He told me to get lost, and he tried to hit me." Jack's gaze darkened as he turned to Ryan, his voice thundering. "You're so selfish. It's always about you." Ryan looked away, biting back his rage, but I knew it was burning inside him like an underground fire. That night, as we lay in bed, Ryan clenched his fists, whispering through gritted teeth, "She's playing Dad. She's turning him against me." I took his hand, my voice steady as stone. "Then let her win. Let them get married. Let her dig her own grave." Ryan's eyes widened. "You're okay with this?" "This is the plan," I whispered. "She's after his money. She'll expose herself soon enough. Let's wait and watch her fall." Ryan's grip tightened around mine, his eyes glinting like embers in the dark. "All right, let's see how this plays out." The deployment plan and Jessica's downfall. After a tense conversation, Ryan and I decided to change tactics, like hunters setting traps in the Smoky Mountains. Instead of confronting her head-on, we would play the obedient children, supporting Mr. Jack and Jessica, allowing her to fall into the trap she set herself. The next morning, I woke up early, brewing coffee in the wooden kitchen, its rich aroma spreading through the house like an invitation for peace. Ryan came downstairs, wearing a white t-shirt and jeans, a faint smile on his lips, a smile concealing sharp calculations, like a wolf lurking in the shadows. "Are you sure, Emily?" he asked, his voice deep and steady, like a creek flowing through the rocks. "Absolutely," I replied, placing the coffee cup in his hand, my gaze unwavering like the Smoky Hills. "Jessica talks big, but she won't actually marry Dad. She just wants money. When she doesn't get it, she'll disappear on her own." Ryan nodded, his eyes gleaming like the moonlight piercing through the mist. "All right, we'll see. But if she crosses the line, I won't hold back." I chuckled softly, patting his shoulder like a silent encouragement. "Don't worry, I've installed cameras in our house in the cabin. Every move she makes will be recorded." Ryan smirked, and for the first time in days, I saw him truly relaxed, like sunlight breaking through the pine forest. "Clever move, wifey. Let's get started." We stepped outside where Mr. Jack was watering violets and Jessica stood beside him, wearing a tight emerald green dress, her long legs glistening under the sunlight like an unspoken challenge. I suppressed my irritation and put on a bright smile, as warm as any Tennessee local. "Good morning, Dad." "Good morning, Jessica," I said, my voice as sweet as wild honey. "I'm heading to the market today to cook a delicious meal for the family. Let me know if you have any cravings." Mr. Jack looked up, slightly surprised by my cheerful attitude, his eyes lighting up like an oil lamp in the night. "Oh, thank you, dear. I'll eat whatever you cook. Jessica glanced at me, her eyes filled with suspicion, like a fox sniffing the air for danger. But she still smiled and replied, "Thank you, Emily. I'd love some fried chicken and mashed potatoes." Ryan stepped forward, giving Mr. Jack a firm pat on the shoulder. "Good morning, Dad. I was a little harsh last night. I hope you're not mad." Mr. Jack laughed, setting down the hose, his voice warm like a gentle stream. "It's all right, son. I was harsh too. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters." Jessica's face darkened. She hadn't expected our attitudes to shift so quickly, like a sudden change in the Smoky Mountain winds. She began to feel uneasy but kept up her confident facade, like the moon hiding the darkness beneath. "That's great. Jack, have we picked a wedding date yet?" Mr. Jack nodded, a hint of excitement in his eyes. "I asked my relatives to check. The 18th of next month is a lucky day." I jumped in, my voice enthusiastic like a storyteller under the moonlight. "That's wonderful. If you need anything for the wedding, just let me know. It should be grand, right?" Ryan nodded in agreement, his voice firm yet respectful. "That's right, Dad. This is your big day. We'll follow your lead." Mr. Jack beamed, clearly moved by our newfound support, like a forest ranger finding his way after a long night. "Thank you, kids. I'm so lucky to have you both." Jessica looked at us, her eyes burning like embers, but she said nothing. She knew we were playing a game, but she couldn't call us out, like an animal backed into a corner. The game had begun, and I was determined to make her dig her own grave under the Smoky Mountain moonlight. Jessica's desperation. A few days later, Jessica's impatience began to show, like a starving wolf prowling through the night. She constantly pressured Mr. Jack to sell the cabin, his cherished place filled with memories of Margaret, to fund their wedding preparations. One afternoon, standing on the porch, I overheard her pleading with him through the open window. "Jack, sell the house," she cooed, wrapping her arms around his neck, her voice dripping with sweetness, but sharp as a dagger. "Let's use the money for our honeymoon. I want to go to Japan." Mr. Jack hesitated, running a hand through his graying hair, his voice steady like a mountain brook. "I do want to, but the current offer is too low. Someone's offering $1 million, but I want at least $1.5 million before selling." Jessica pouted, her red lips curving into a spoiled complaint. "$1 million is enough. Sell it, Jack." Mr. Jack shook his head, his expression firm. "It's too cheap. If no one offers $1.5 million, I won't sell. I can still afford the honeymoon." Jessica's face twisted, her voice turning sharp like birds crying before a storm. "But I want to go to Japan. Tennessee is so boring." "All right," Mr. Jack sighed, his voice softening like a father indulging a child. "Let me think. If I get a better offer soon, I'll sell." From the porch, Ryan and I exchanged knowing smirks. This was our moment. Ryan immediately called Tommy, a childhood friend turned real estate agent in Knoxville. "Tommy, pretend to be a buyer and offer $2 million, but tell him the paperwork will take a month. Can you do that?" Tommy laughed over the phone, his voice booming like distant thunder. "Piece of cake, bro. Consider it done." That evening, Tommy arrived in a sleek black Jeep, dressed sharply like a wealthy investor from the city. Mr. Jack and Jessica greeted him in the yard, and Jessica's eyes lit up like the moon when she heard his proposal. "I'll offer $2 million for this cabin," Tommy announced, "but I'm busy, so I'll need a month to finalize everything." Mr. Jack immediately agreed, his eyes glowing with hope. "That's great news," but Jessica's smile vanished, her voice turning desperate like wind whipping through the trees. "A month? That's too long. I need the money now." Mr. Jack frowned, his voice firm. "Just a month, Jessica. $2 million is worth waiting for. Why are you in such a hurry?" Jessica's patience cracked, her voice trembling like a dying leaf. "But I need money for the wedding. Sell it now for $1 million. From the porch, I called out sweetly, "Dad's right. $2 million is much better. We should wait." Mr. Jack nodded in agreement. "Emily is right. No rush." Jessica stormed into the cabin, her high heels pounding against the wooden floor like a war drum. She had no idea our trap was closing in on her, like a predator cornering its prey under the smoky mountain moon. And then she made her fatal mistake. 2 days later, Jessica made one last desperate move. This time, targeting Ryan. She found him home alone, shirtless from cleaning, his muscular frame gleaming like a sculpted pine log. She stepped in from the cabin, wearing a flimsy camisole, her gaze sultry like a panther stalking in the dark. "Your ex isn't home today?" she asked, her voice sweet yet laced with mockery. Ryan turned, his voice as cold as the mountain caves. "You're about to be my stepmother. Watch your words." Jessica laughed, stepping closer, her heels tapping seductively. "I'm just worried about you. You still have feelings for me, don't you?" Ryan's eyes burned like embers. "You're delusional. Go cook dinner. Dad's coming home." Jessica leaned in, her breath warm against his skin. "I don't love Jack. I'm just here for the money. The moment I get it, I'm gone." A slow smirk spread across Ryan's face. "You're an idiot, Jessica. A complete idiot." Jessica frowned. "What do you mean?" Ryan pointed behind her. She turned, and there we stood. Me, holding a recording phone, and Mr. Jack, his hands gripping a dirt-stained spade, his eyes burning with quiet fury. So, the story comes to an end under the radiant, smoky moonlight of the Tennessee countryside. Jessica collapsed in shame, leaving behind the shattered pieces of her dark schemes, swept away by the night wind. Our family, after stormy days, has finally found the light of peace, a simple, warm happiness, like the flickering glow of an oil lamp in an old wooden cabin. Mr. Jack and Mrs. Linda laughed together in the garden. Ryan carried Ethan as they ran under the starry sky, and I sat on the porch, smiling in contentment. Tonight, all secrets have been buried, and this story officially ends in the gentle darkness of the smoky night. What do you think about this ending? This has been a dramatic journey I've brought to you on Stories by Night, a channel of intense, heartfelt stories told under the mystical moonlight. Leave a comment below, share your thoughts, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next midnight tale. Thank you for joining me through this long story under the smoky moon. See you again on another bright moonlit night on Stories by Night.